Okay, now on to our guest speakers. Before I introduce our first speaker, Judd, I have a small video clip of his campaign launch that I would like to play for you.
Growing up in '96, a small town in rural South Carolina showed me that what brings us together is always stronger than what tears us apart. South Carolinians stand up to help their neighbors when they're in need, no matter their differences. In a time where we're so divided, these bonds have become even more important for maintaining our sense of community. My father taught me the values of hard work, dedication, and family. His story begins as a high school dropout, but ends as a self-made small business owner. It's from this journey that he knew how important it was to instill those values in his son. After I graduated college, I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. And through many sleepless nights, and the support of my friends, family, and neighbors, I was able to start my own small business. Like so many in our community that work the fields or multiple jobs to make ends meet, I know how it feels to start the workday before the sun rises and end long after it sets. But the people of the Midlands haven't been given the support they deserve from politicians in Washington. Children in our community go to sleep hungry. Families are crippled by outrageous medical bills, and workers see their paycheck shrinking and their jobs in jeopardy. Something has to change, which is why I've decided to step up and run for South Carolina's 2nd Congressional District. We need a representative who will put aside partisan politics and come to the table with common sense solutions. Someone who will stand up for workers, revitalize the Midlands economy, and bring lasting change to South Carolina. That means when I'm in Washington, I'll protect the Social Security benefits you earned, help bring the next generation of green jobs to the Midlands, and fight against the big interests trying to cut Medicaid and Medicare. My name is Judd Larkins, and I'm running to be your voice and advocate in Congress. Together, we can break the status quo and make Washington start working for you.
Judd has probably seen that video too many times.
I actually haven't watched it in about 2 months. So.
No kidding.
It was good to see it again, but it's always awkward kind of hearing yourself, you know?
Yes.
It's really awkward. Thanks so much. Right here. Let's see here. Am I the right volume? I don't want to bust anybody's eardrums this morning. Well, good morning, and thanks for having me. Good morning, yeah. My name is Judd Larkins, and I am not running to be your next congressman. For those who don't know numbers, I am in the 2nd, which is Joe Wilson's district. That is part of Richland, Lexington County, Aiken County, Orangeburg, a little bit of Orangeburg, Barnwell, and potentially part of Calhoun. Just depends on the maps coming up. And I was going to explain why I'm here, but the video helped. Is I am born and raised in Greenwood. I went to 96 High School, graduated back in 2009, and then went on to Clemson University. As it showed there, I was the owner of Bent Bargain, so if you visited it, thank you. But sadly was a victim of COVID, so we closed that down a few months ago. But as y'all might know, I am involved with the new donut store, so I hope you've been enjoying the donuts this week. And again, thanks for having me. And when I was talking with my team about what to say, I told them that I don't want to give you my stump speech because I'm not asking for your vote. That's not the audience. It's not what I need to be here to do. And I'm glad that he has a theme of having people run for office. Because that's what I want to talk about, is how to get the energy level up because, we're past this November. I know y'all have an election on the 28th, so show up and vote if you're in that district. But now it's time to turn to November's election and the June primary. So if you allow me, I want to leave you with 3 thoughts. The first is we need to challenge every race. So on your books, I love this. It has a list of all of the races coming up. Is if you see an R, make sure we have a challenger here. Make sure you do. I know that we're talking about this down in the Midlands, is we don't want to leave any race unopposed. And even on the nonpartisans, if you know where they lie and it's on the other side, challenge them. They're either yourself or if you know someone, challenge those races. And if you're like, well, I've never done this. I've never done this. Like, this is my first time running for office. I'm still new, which is why my stage presence is probably bad, and I sit probably in the worst spot to come up here. It's because I'm still learning too. And that's okay. I mean, that is very much okay. Everybody here is a normal person, and it's okay to be normal. So run for those. And there could be three impacts if you challenge them. The first one is you could win the race, which would be the best outcome. You could actually win. The second is every time we give voters an option, is less likely they're going to vote straight ticket, which impacts down ballot Democrats and up ballot Democrats. I know we can all agree that we want Henry McMaster out. And the only way to do that is to make more people have to think about other races down the line. Is if you can keep them from walking in, first screen, straight ticket, it's a win if we can get them to go through race by race. You might not get all of them to vote a majority Democrat, but you might be able to get one or two to choose one of our candidates for governor, or maybe for some other race or in a local race. You can do that. And that's one good way of doing it, is by giving them options. Is if they drive by and all they hear is Krabi's unopposed or Jeff Duncan's unopposed, it's just that much less likely someone actually spends 2 or 3 minutes going through race by race. And the third, and I know this because I'm in a challenging district. We had a great candidate last year in Adair Burrows. But sadly, her performance was similar to Sean Kerrigan back in 2018. Is you need to build name recognition. And one issue we're having right now, and the second, is every 2 years, there's a new name. Whether it's Kerrigan, whether it was Eric Bjorn or Adair Burrows, and now hopefully myself, is every 2 years, you're having to get more familiar with a person. So even if you're not planning on running multiple times for that race, every time you get your name out there, increases your name recognition. It's why, honestly, and we don't really say this because right now we don't have a primary in my race. We would actually love a primary as long as I don't lose. I don't want to lose the primary. But, is forcing those 20 out of 30,000 primary voters, because we're going to have, and maybe even more than that, because of the tight governor's race on our side. We need my name out there. We need the local people's name out here, because it's likely the person's going to be a little bit of unknown in parts, especially if they're challenging Duncan, where you're starting to talk a wide geographical area. So that's my thing on that, is contest these races. You can do it, is if we leave one race uncontested, it only hurts us. But the second is when these people run, support them. And there's multiple ways of supporting them. From, showing up for things like this, to just free stuff such as retweet, or give your time if you're able. Or whatever you're able to do, I can assure you the candidate and campaign very much appreciates it. Whether it's as simple as phone banking, or just making an introduction. I mean, half the time, that's half of the battle, is how to get into an organization to speak with them. If you can open a door for them, open it there. Of course, if you're able to give there. $1, $2,000, all of it counts. All of it's money, all of it counts. But you have to support them, and even just encouragement. We get letters, we get texts from people, and encouragement is great. Because some days it's hard. Some days you look and you had a bad fundraising day where your performance wasn't great. But you still have to keep moving forward, because there's no off days when you're campaigning. As Mr. Nicholson knows, there's no off days. You're always, anytime you walk out the door, it's a potential to meet a voter. So you have to always be on, and some days it's tough. So just that simple text of, "You got this, you're doing great," works. But I also want to hit on something that most probably wouldn't say, is that you got to watch the negative talk too. And with redistricting, it's tough right now. I've seen the house maps. They're horrible. The state house maps are really bad, especially around Charleston. I know here's not great. There's certain areas of, like Bill mentioned, 3 Democrats are going to probably clash. I'm probably, in my district, Jermaine Johnson and Wendy Brawley are drawn into the same district. could potentially have to deal with that. And then we actually are going to lose a senator. Harpootlian was drawn into Setzler's district, so in 24, there's the potential of that just in the Midlands that we have to deal with. So I get on Twitter. Obviously, I'm a little younger, so I'm always on Twitter. But you get a lot of people saying, it's impossible, the demographics aren't what we need in a certain area, or maybe just, it's too red. And I get the frustration. I mean, we get it too looking at maps. My district is, if the congressional maps are adopted, I had to come out pretty unscathed from the existing maps. We did the math. Theoretically, Wilson gains maybe 300 voters, which out of over 200 is, a rounding it. So it's not big for me. It's big down in a US 1 as we try to knock out Nancy Mace. So that's where it's big there more. So a lot of the frustrations is on that race, but every time you tweet or tell someone like it's impossible, it makes that candidate's job that much tougher. It's just imagine calling someone, either asking the phone bank or for $50, and you hear, I don't think we can win it, it's impossible, I'm gonna focus elsewhere. Like that just makes your life much more difficult when you're calling someone in that district trying to fight for them. So instead of that, maybe mention, like it's an uphill battle, it's a multi-cycle battle, which is a lot of these things, multi-cycle. We saw Georgia, it's been building for a decade. We won, we're gonna have to hold the Senate. We're hoping Abrams can get us over the top with governor. We see North Carolina's not quite there, but it's moving. Texas is moving. Nevada moved. Arizona's getting there. So see, it's a build. It's a process. So we can reframe it as, it may be impossible on December 4th right now. But as you get into November, maybe it's not as impossible. Or in 24, it's not as impossible. So we got to watch our mindset going in. Because these are tough races. We all know that in South Carolina. But we have to keep charting the course, and every time we say, it's not worth the effort, it just makes Republicans get even more entrenched, which might reach beyond Greenwood and impact the governor's race or, Secretary of Education, which is going to be a highly contested race. So that's one thing that I mentioned more so than others is we have to have the right mindset coming in, because these are tough. But we're a resilient people here. And then the third is more for any candidates. Know what you're running for and know your district. Is if you're running for city council, know that city inside and out and those people's needs. If you're running against Duncan, be the biggest fan of that district you can be. I mean, I've been going around to high school football games, which we know are big deals. And a big shout out to Greenwood High alum Bryce Lybrand. He's the coach of Buford Eagles. They lost to South Point Thursday, but our very own took another high school team to the state championship. And that needs to be known here. And like these, just us showing up to a game like that, or to a track meet, or to a parade, I mean, these are important times in those kids' lives and their parents' lives. And just, showing up or giving a tweet about it is very impactful of the small stuff. You have to remember what the job description is. And one thing that we're dealing with down in a second is Joe Wilson's focus isn't on the Senate. It's on national security matters, which are important, but that's not strictly the job description. He is supposed to be representing the 2nd Congressional District. He needs to be worried about our security as well, but not at the neglect of people in Gilbert or Pillion or Aiken or losing a hospital in Barnwell. So that's one thing that we have to keep in mind is know your district, know their needs. And one thing that my campaign's doing is if we walk up to someone at an event, then the first thing we ask them is what issues are you facing? We don't try to divide in between a Republican and Democrat. And that works for us in our area because we're facing an uphill battle. Certain areas is different, so you have to adapt. Greenwood, it can be very different. But you have to know what you're going up against in the district, and then try to get down personal with people. You never know what that connection might be. Ask how they're doing. If they say they've had a rough week, listen to them for a few minutes. What's the worst you can do? Spend 5 minutes talking with someone? And if you can do that, it's hard to say what happens next November. You may pick off a few, and that 13-point loss turns into maybe maybe only 6 next year. But then you build on that, and in 24, it becomes a toss-up. So that's one thing that we're really focusing on, is that, and make sure to actually solve people's problems. Everybody loves talking, and it raises a lot of money, but eventually folks want problems solved. And thank y'all for having me. Next time, and this is a promise I want to make, as soon as y'all get a congressional candidate past the primary stage, I want to come back, I want to introduce him, and I want to bring in some of my resources to help. Because, I mean, I'm from Greenwood, my dad lives down the road, my brother still lives here. I come up here often, and I want to see y'all beat Jeff Duncan, and I want to do what I can as well. Thank you.